when I watched The Color Purple and saw Oprah and Whoopi Goldberg, a seed was planted in my heart to be an actor. But I dared not water it in public. You see, being an actor wasn't an honorable thing to do, especially not for a politician's daughter. It's something that a child did and grown-up children did, but not anyone else. I pursued acting opportunities on the side, and as long as it was extracurricular and not my focus, it felt safe and acceptable. Mind you, my parents never put any pressure on me to be one thing or another, but it was the expectations from the larger society that kept me ashamed of the real desire of my heart. And so I got down to the most important work, figuring out what steps would get me to being an actor, the actor I wanted so badly to be. I had an action plan, something to work towards, getting into the Yale School of Drama for acting training. To go after my goal to attend the Yale School of Drama meant that I would have to confront my fear of failure, of not being good enough. As I boarded the plane to the US, there were naysayers in my head telling me I was crazy, that I shouldn't even bother. Over 900 people audition for 15 spots each year. And yet there was a part of me that knew I could do it, even when the part of me that said it was impossible was louder. Our dreams arise from our imaginations. They belong to us. We owe it to ourselves to try and realize them. To encourage myself, I wrote in my diary on the 23rd of August, 2008, I have this dream and desire to be an actor, and it dwarfs me. But it is my dream, goddammit. I made it up. How can what I dream up defeat me?
Rule number 2, stay fresh.
Those 3 years were the best years of my school life, hands down. And at the beginning, of course, I was like, first of all, how on earth did I get in? But the dean gave this talk of a first orientation talk, and he talked about the imposter syndrome and how everyone in the room was probably going through that feeling, like I tricked them into getting here. And he was reassuring us that we were all going through it. And indeed, I was sitting next to my classmates, and some of us broke down crying because we were like, yes, I thought I was on my own, but no, we were together. And it was so reassuring to recognize that almost every artist feels that way, and that therefore you're not as unique as you think you are, and that's a good thing, They often feel that way even after years of working professionally. Always. And the thing about acting is that you're always taking on new stuff. You're taking on a new role. So just as soon as you feel like an expert in something, you have to leave it and go on to a totally new thing and be ignorant and curious and fresh again. And that's what's so wonderful. It's what's wonderful and what's extremely frustrating about this business.
Rule number 3, live in the moment.
There are a lot of brutal moments in this film, and one particularly harrowing moment is when you are whipped by both your slave master and Solomon. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about how you prepared to play that scene emotionally and mentally. And I know the evening before was very difficult for you. Talk to us about that.
Well, so the evening before I shot that scene, we'd done another scene in which I needed the scars from before Patsy is that epic whipping. And it had taken 4 hours to do those scars. And so when I looked at the call sheet for the next day, I saw that it was going to be 6 hours in the makeup chair. And I was just like, I'm not doing that. So I suggested to Kaladevi, the makeup artist, that I remain with the scars on my back so that we cut our work in half for the next day's work. And I went home with these scars on my back, and I could only sleep on my belly because I didn't want to mess them up. And they just haunted me, They were so present, and I was so uncomfortable. And I had trouble sleeping the whole time I was doing 12 Years a Slave, but that night I got even less sleep. But it occurred to me as I was weeping in the night that my discomfort was temporary and Patsy's wasn't. And it still makes me cry. And I had been given this privilege to bring her back to life, and it just quietened my soul and prepared me for the next day's work.
Is it emotionally hard to still now disconnect yourself with everything that you felt while filming?
I mean, I feel, the best of Patsy remains in me. The lessons I learned about the value of presence and being in the present moment, I feel like that lesson is what's helping me survive this season. Patsy had to live in the present moment because she had a master that was volatile and dangerous. So she had to be prepared for anything at any time. And that lesson, living in the moment, was just reinforced for me. And so that remains.
Rule number 4, write down your goals and dreams.
4, do not underestimate the power of writing your dreams and goals down. Right before I got cast in 12 Years a Slave, I wrote in my diary what kind of work I wanted to do. I envisioned, this was on May 4th, 2012, that I wanted to make meaningful films that affect change in people's understanding of and commitment to the world we live in. I also wrote that I wanted to visit New Orleans for a week. On May 13th, I booked 12 Years a Slave. And on June 6th, I would be in Louisiana working on the film for 5 weeks.
Rule number 5, be authentic.
A lot of people look at you as a symbol of Black girl healing in a lot of ways. And I think sometimes when you hold such a high standard,
I say what I believe in, and so it doesn't feel like labor. It actually feels like an opportunity. And it touches me when people say these things about what I mean. I didn't seek that. That was not my intention. But I feel that, like Fiona in this story, her intention was to play chess. She couldn't have known that she would pull her family out of poverty by doing that. She also couldn't have known that she would give me a job by playing chess, and yet she has. And so I think when you follow your dream, you follow your passion, you're so much more use than you even realize you're gonna be. And so for me, when you say that to me, it's just an encouragement for me to keep going, doing the thing I love, which is acting. And that has given me a platform to say things and be things to people way more than the thing that I'm passionate about.
Rule number 6, find your path.
I always loved to perform. I was the child who preferred to sit in my cupboard in the closet and play with my Barbies in the dark, and then go outside and ride a bike. I loved make-believe, and my mom tells this story about when I was 3. I hadn't even been to school yet, but she had a guest over, and I spun this tale about how I went to school and what I'd had for lunch and what uniform I wore and who I'd played with and everything. And my mother was just like, this child is bound to be in the performing arts. Yeah, so it was an early passion, and then it wasn't until I watched The Color Purple that I thought, maybe I could do this in my life, because it was people that looked like me, and I remember Whoopi Goldberg especially really moved me, and that was the first time that I thought, maybe I could be an actor. But it took a while before I actually uttered it out loud and said that that's what I wanted to do.
Rule number 7, reach out to your stretcher bearers.
Reach out to your stretcher bearers. This is a concept I carried with me from high school Bible teaching. It speaks of a time when Jesus was teaching a crowd of people that had come from all over. Some men came late, carrying their paralyzed friend on a stretcher. It was so crowded around Jesus, so they decided to go up on the roof, take out the tiles, and lower the man into the middle of the crowd in front of Jesus. When Jesus saw their faith and how much love they had, he cured the man instantly of his paralysis. My teacher, in her message, encouraged us to make sure we too had those stretcher bearers in our lives, at least 4 people who would carry us to healing and safety when we can't do it for ourselves. The people who will remind you that you are not alone when your emotions get the best of you.
Rule number 8, connect emotionally.
The gem or the treasure that is acting is that you actually get to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And there is you learn so much more when you are taking things personally. And so for me to have to take slavery personally is something that I can never unlearn, you know. And I had learned about slavery theoretically, analytically, but what 12 Years a Slave gave me was to learn about it emotionally and physically. And that kind of learning is so deep. And, you know, I just went to the opening of the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and, you know, walking through the halls and revisiting slavery and going up to emancipation, civil rights and all that, and ending up in a room where Patsy's dress is on display. I mean, it's so alive for me, and I delved into that history at that time, and I will never be the same again, you know? And I think that's what's so powerful about cinema, is that you can actually have a moment to take someone else's life personally. And in doing so, hopefully it encourages empathy, and, you know, and that we share a humanity, and we can share in those experiences in a very real and tangible way, and hopefully draw closer to each other.
Rule number 9, work hard.
Doing a play takes stamina, and because you have to do the whole thing every single day, and you have to do it like you've never done it before. And that's why I wanted to do a play, because it brings you know, a regimen, and it just is a good workout for acting. And so with Black Panther, one of the things that I needed stamina for was the fighting, the physical challenge. And so we went into a 6-week boot camp, and it came in very handy, you know, that kind of like diligence, just, you know, get there and do the work. And it also helped me get over the fact that I was part of Black Panther, you know, because it takes work. Every day you have to show up, and like you have to focus on the thing you're doing. You have to focus on that one ring blade and what it's doing. So yeah, I'd say stamina.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, have fun.
The category is animals, and you're gonna act out animals. You can't talk.
Okay.
You just have to move and be an animal that I'm gonna guess. Okay. And so you'll stand up if you want to.
Okay,
and
here goes.
I'm going to take off my
You
shoes.
can make noises. Oh, you're getting serious. All right.
Okay.
Oh, you're a kangaroo. No, you're a bunny.
Yes.
Okay. You're an elephant. You're a horse? You're very good at this. Oh, you're a pig?
Yes.
A flamenco. Ostrich. A giraffe.
Yes.
A woodpecker. You're a fly or a bee?